Okay, Oscar fans, we have assembled the #1 team of Oscarologists in Hollywood to track this year's Derby for you. I'm Tom O'Neill of GoldDerby, here with Ann Thompson of Indiewire, Pete Hammond of Deadline Hollywood, and Tim Gray of Variety. And before we officially start, I want to give Ann a shout out for having the best predictions last year among our experts for the nominations. And wonderful. And by the way, when I was
Occasionally it happens.
No, and then when I was looking at your predictions for nominations this morning, I noticed that you had Olivia Colman for actress for the nominations, and then blew it, like the rest of us, for Oscar night.
It's true.
Pete Hammond had the best predictions among PMC experts for the winners last year, and he not only got Green Book right, but here's the astounding thing that Pete achieved last year with his predictions. He got Green Book for screenplay. Green Book hadn't won a single screenplay award last year at all, and the favorites were The Favorite and Roma, and somehow Pete knew that. Well done, Pete.
Well, you know, thank you. It was really nothing.
Tim, you're a slacker. We gotta catch up here, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, especially at this point, because I feel like at this point in Oscar season, it's honeymoon period, where it's like anything could happen, and sometimes I predict things that I'm hoping, that I'm pulling for.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
Well, I know, but it's...
Wrong thing. No. I had the best score 2 years ago for Oscar nominations, and then for winners that year, Pete and I tied for second place. I forget who beat us, but it was among the non-PMC experts.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so we are a proven group of Oscarologists up here. And that said, we're going to take the Frontrunners, according to the GoldDerby odds, for Best Picture. And Ann, we'll start with you. Do you agree that these are the 5 movies that can win? Number 1, The Irishman. 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 3, Marriage Story. 4, 1917. And 5, that surprising little Parasite.
I do. I think those are the top 5.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why?
And I think that Irishman has scale and scope and stake eater support and actor support and all the bells and whistles that you would hope for. So does Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A lot of male support, too. These are movies about men and the old masculinity that no longer seems to be okay. And I think people love that.
No foreign language film has ever won a Best Picture before, so of course we thought Roma could do it last year, and then Pete proved us all wrong with Green Book. But there is a difference between Parasite, which is that foreign language, wily little contender that can, and Roma from last year, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Parasite, first of all, isn't Netflix, so you don't have to worry about the anti-Netflix group, which I think is at least 500 voters, that will nominate it. They'll nominate anything from Netflix, but they will not go for Best Picture because there's a lot of people that think that's a bridge too far. But Parasite has the best chance, won the Palme d'Or. No movie since Marty in 1955 has won the Palme d'Or and the Best Picture Oscar. So that would be interesting in that regard. There's one movie you didn't mention, which in my conversations with Academy members keeps coming up constantly, which is Ford V Ferrari.
Very popular.
That is loved by particularly the crafts groups and things. I've heard it all weekend long when people say that's what the sad thing is. Most Academy members I talk to haven't seen much of anything. A couple of them said, "I'm looking forward to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood." I said, "It opened in July," but that's how behind we are in this season, which is a shortened season. And I don't think a lot of them are aware of the fact that the ballots go out January 2nd and are back January 7th. So really, we're a month away.
A lot of people saw Irishman over the weekend.
Yes, they watched it on Netflix.
Thanksgiving weekend was a big...
Yes, that was, I talked to a lot of people. Well, I actually talked to a lot of people that are watching it in interesting ways. And these are all Academy members. These are all names you definitely would know. And one is 2.5 hours through it so far and has another hour to go. One is watching it like Quigley, or the new Jeffrey Katzenberg thing. They're watching it in half-hour increments.
Jesus.
And she said that she's gotten into it actually 45 minutes so far. And they're all voters. And so it's very interesting when you have this kind of television thing going on where they can sit there and watch it any way they want with interruptions. It does affect it. I'm a big screen proponent. So, and I think if you sit and watch The Irishman that way, you'll have a different opinion than watching it on television, but we'll see.
Tim, you have it at number 1, like most of us do, as Irishman. Why?
I mean, I just think it hits all the right buttons. I mean, there was such anticipation for it before it opened, because it's Martin Scorsese reuniting with Robert De Niro, and it's an epic. But when I saw it, I thought, God, this movie really delivers. This is not a movie that's just going on its reputation. I thought it was just great on so many levels. Partly because it just keeps you involved for 3.5 hours. But also, it's Scorsese going to an area that he's covered before, but doing it in a whole different way. So I think it's
Last
pretty
year,
strong.
we saw something that we'd never seen before, which was this very, very public opinion of where we thought everything was going, and then this very private way it really did go. In other words, Bohemian Rhapsody was roundly trashed by critics, but it won 4 out of 5 of its races. And Pete, you said something to me a few weeks ago that I'll bet you're right. I'll bet you it came in second for Best Picture.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah.
And it all started, people got that whole season wrong.
I know, and
in retrospect, when you look at it, Green Book won right at the beginning, the National Board of Review. It was beloved by the Golden Globes. It won there. Bohemian Rhapsody won there too. You could see these little precursor things indicating the Producers Guild, which is often an indicator of the industry interest in something, went to Green Book, and so you could tell that. And Bohemian was also really popular within the industry. And Roma had a problem. Roma was getting critics groups and things like that, but once it hit screeners or Netflix, a lot of people that I talked to, in fact, almost all of them that I talked to that watched it on Netflix or particularly on a screener, didn't get through it, didn't get through the first 25 minutes.
It wasn't the right way to see it.
No, it's a lot of mopping and things in the first 20 minutes.
Right.
And that was a problem for that movie at that time.
But I do think that Rami Malek was the win for Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's what they wanted it to do. And it would never have been the win as Best Picture because it's about presenting the movie that represents the industry as they want it to be seen, and it wasn't classy enough for that, or well-reviewed enough for that.
I also think with what you were saying about predictions and stuff, because I think there's a group who do buzz, including us, and there's the Oscar voters, and they're very separate.
Last year they had very different opinions.
Yeah,
and we didn't see a clear division of that till the end.
No,
Film Twitter is very misleading. There's no question about
What
that.
is?
Film Twitter.
Yeah, it is, and again, no film was more beat up than Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody. But for the record, I also predicted Green Book would win because
you did? Oh, great.
Because it, I mean, yeah, it's but
No, that was a big win. A big win for all of us.
Tim and I were on a panel, which we do at Emerson College, and some guy raised his hand and asked a question and said, well, nobody's predicting Green Book, to win. It's all Roma. And I looked at Tim. I said, Tim, you predicted it, didn't you? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I predicted it. So there you have it. But we predicted it.
No, but
that was it. And the perception was that wasn't.
Well, again, because the buzz was so much in favor of Roma, but again, the people that I talked to, the voters, I mean, when you talk to them about like Bohemian Rhapsody, they said, I liked it. It's sometimes apologetically, and sometimes it's just like, I don't care what Twitter says, but I liked it, and that's always a factor.
That's what we had last year. We don't care what Twitter says, and that's what our job is now, is to get in front of that. Now, last year with the foreign language film that we thought was going to win Best Picture, that did win Best Foreign Film, and I think a lot of us believe that Roma probably could have won Best Picture if it hadn't been paid off by the voters for foreign film. They said, oh, we're giving it a Best Picture there kind of thing. But Roma had won BAFTA, which has the just a plurality vote, check off, none of this ranking kind of thing. So we got a lot of confusing tea leaves this year.
But BAFTA was wrong 6 years in a row now.
Oh, for Best Picture?
Yeah.
Okay. But normally they are pretty accurate with the acting category.
Maybe before the last 6 years.
I'm bringing this up because of Parasite. I think it's different. I think it's the little movie that can change things this year. And the reason I say that is because when you now listen to the evangelical vote, and that is what is changing everything at the Emmys and at the Oscars this year, which is recently, which is, yes, when they say, oh yes, The Revenant's going to win Best Picture, but I really love Spotlight. Or when they say, yeah, La La Land's going to win Best Picture, but boy, I love Moonlight. And we just saw it with Fleabag at the Emmys. There is this kind of evangelical, but have you seen the... And I think that is Parasite this year. Whether or not it cashes in on that, I think is fascinating to watch.
I agree with you completely.
Okay.
But it's still as you said, no foreign film has won Best Picture, so it's a tall climb. It'll get nominated, it'll get maybe 8 nominations, but to win Best Picture, that's another matter.
On the cusp, number 6.
On the other hand, though, Bong Joon-ho is a great campaigner.
And he's charming.
This guy has been everywhere. He's going to go to the opening of Ralph's over in the Valley.
Right now, we have... no, right
I'm
now
going
he's doing a
like,
bunch of
this guy
interviews.
knows how to do it.
It's such a tall climb because you end up with the mainstream categories. You have forgive me, the publicists, the writers are more high-end, like the craftspeople, but the publicists, the producers, the big groups that are more mainstream have to like Parasite too, and that's where the question mark comes in.
Jojo Rabbit kind of follows the Bohemian Rhapsody thing last year. People love it. I loved it. I mean, it's very emotional, but it's been very divisive with the critics. But on the other hand, it won the TIFF Audience Award, as had Green Book and many other big emotional movies. Jojo?
I don't feel like people are talking about Jojo. They like it. And it did win Toronto, which is a huge bellwether. It really is. But the critics are at like 49,
But the critics don't matter this
50.
year.
I mean,
and
it's
that's
really
the whole point
not,
of this. So let's
not
separate.
good. No, you need to have a patina of success. You need to have some Tony aspects to it. And this is a mainstream movie that people like, but they don't necessarily think it's special. I bet here's what's not going to happen. The critics groups aren't going to give it anything.
Yeah, I think that's true. But
nothing to Green Book either.
But you're right. I think a lot of people do like it, but I don't hear a lot of people talk. I hear a lot of people talking about Parasite. And The Irishman, and in the past week, 1917.
Let's talk about that now. That really hit like an explosion in this race in the last week when we finally all saw it. It took a lot of guts for Universal to hold that thing out to the end and a shortened season. But the screener just arrived upstairs. We Critics' Choice voters got it. The timing turned out to be pretty smart. There's a lot of buzz for that movie.
It's really good. It really works. The actors are going to love it because what the actors had to do is extraordinary with these long, long, long takes. The craftspeople are going to love it because what Deakins pulled off is extraordinary. It's got all the stuff going for it.
The way Universal sees it is their big competition is Ford versus Ferrari. They go like, I talked to people at Universal, they said, oh my God, we're all the same categories. And it's a real fight to the finish in the crafts categories between 1917 and Ford v Ferrari in terms of really dominating those.
I worry about Ford v Ferrari in that sense. I'm a huge fan of this movie. I think it's extraordinarily well made, but it actually lacks the gravitas that 1917 has, which gives it an edge.
It could. It could very well. As
No
more
auto
people
racing
see
movie's ever been nominated.
The what?
No auto racing movie's ever been nominated.
Okay, but...
It's more than that. It's
Well, I
a
know,
character
but
study.
but I think it has to go to the gravitas.
You know, it's got an emotional
It's an
hook that
issue.
maybe Grand Prix or Le Mans and those kind of pictures didn't have. And that's what people seem to be, but they love the craft of it. You
I
know,
know,
it's
I know.
that.
We're running out of time. Little Women, Tim, does it get in for Best Picture nomination?
I'm guessing so, but I honestly don't know. I mean, I will say I think it's an extraordinary year because I think in any other year, like Ford versus Ferrari, Little Women, so they'd be shoo-ins. But now it's like, I mean, even on GoldDerby with 10 spaces, it's like I have 20 possibilities for Best Film, and all of them could get in. So I'm kind of guessing at this point. I'm guessing Little Women gets
One of the most divisive movies that we either have it in there and have it up high, are Oscarologists, or we don't. And I do, and that is Joker. Talk about controversial. Does that get in for Best Picture? or not?
Definitely.
Definitely. Oh, good.
People like Joker. It's a very popular movie. At the box office, over $1 billion worldwide, does not lie. Joaquin Phoenix, I'm going to say right now, I know we're not there yet, he may win. Because he's responsible for how good that movie is, the way that Daniel Day-Lewis was for Lincoln. And that's the issue there. I think it goes all the way Joker. Lots and lots of noms. I'm not sure about other wins.
Yeah, I don't know. Joker, I'm up in the air. I love Joker, but I don't know if they're going to go for it or not in that way. I definitely Joaquin Phoenix, I think, absolutely. We'll have to see. Oscar races are all about momentum and things building, and if Joker can get some awards action, we'll see.
on the cusp, Tim, is Bombshell. That's either in a big way or it's not, and I can't make up my mind, and I change my predictions constantly. Where do you stand on Bombshell?
I'm hoping it gets a lot of attention, and I think it will. I mean, it's so interesting. Takes you by surprise. But again, I mean, what we're talking about, because I also realized Two Popes we haven't talked about.
We haven't
Right,
talked
right,
about the other two Netflix movies, you know, Marriage Story and Two Popes, which have a lot of fans.
And I love
very strong
Dolomite,
emotional
but I mean, I think that is going to get some attention. I don't know about Best
I
Picture and
think
Director.
Two Popes and Marriage Story are actors and writers. Those are the strongest groups behind them.
Yeah.
Which are big groups, big voting.
Big groups.
Yeah.
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood has the huge heart that the movies that did well last year have. And we'll talk about the acting categories in a few minutes. But Best Picture, I think we don't have it in the top 10 now at Gold Derby. I do, I think. Where do you
It's
go?
hanging in there at the box office, which is what it needed. I think it's a little soft, honestly. There's something about it that doesn't. It's not going to get help from the critics. It's in the middle somewhere. It's not a home run.
No, it's a quiet picture in that regard, and it's one that I've talked to the filmmakers about it, and they're getting this incredible reaction of, oh my God, I got on the phone and I called somebody, you know, it's putting out the message of kindness, and it's a different kind of message than any other movie is doing right now, and it's having a little effect. It could be a quiet little sneak in there kind of movie beyond Tom Hanks' supporting nomination.
Tim, take the two foreign films here, Pain and Glory and The Farewell. The Farewell is in our top 10 right now. It's at number 10. Pain and Glory is not. Do they get in?
Again, I hope so. Pain and Glory was one of my favorites this year, and I liked it a lot when I saw it. I liked it more when I saw it the second time. It's really strong, and again, I think in a different year it would be a shoo-in because it's you know, it's Pedro Almodovar. It's very personal, and it kind of it's all the things he's done well over the years, but also adds a twist to it, and usually that's irresistible. But I think it's just such a strong year. It's fighting for attention. I'm a little surprised that more people haven't predicted it, but I'm guessing that movie's going to get attention from critics groups, which will give it a little bit of
I
boost.
think it will.
And kind of raise.
But it's
raise
going up
confidence.
against Parasite.
I know that's the problem. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what we think. It matters what you think at home. You can make your
No, it
predictions at
matters
Gold
what we
Derby,
think.
and you can prove us wrong. And by the way, we're doing this before the SAG and the Golden Globe nominations are out, before the New York film critics have sounded off. That's what kind of guts we've got. What about you? Make your predictions now.